welcome back to another episode of Friday Morning Fuel. We're more than halfway through the year. We've got a couple of topics left for 2024, but this month, August, if you can believe it, we're already in August. We're going to be talking about functional beverages. So doing a more of a drink episode rather than a food episode. So I hope you're thirsty and I hope you've got something to sip along while we learn about some of our really nice beverage options that are now available on the market. So what is a functional beverage? Maybe you're like, I've never heard that term before, but trust me, if you've ever been into any grocery store and walk down the aisle where there's tons of drinks options besides just water and soda, or even better if you've gone on a road trip. I love going into the Sheetz gas station and just seeing what different options there are for drinks. You'll notice that there are way more options now available on the market compared to 10 or even 20 years ago. So functional beverages are non-alcoholic drinks specifically that contain added ingredients that provide health benefits beyond hydration and taste. And these ingredients can come from animals, plants, marine life, or even microorganisms, and can often include vitamins, minerals, herbs, amino acids, dietary fiber, and probiotics. So quite a mouthful, but basically it's a drink that's something besides just plain water, plain tea, plain coffee, that usually has an extra little oomph in it, or you'll maybe even see on the label that there is a health claim. So it is important to call out that these functional beverages, they are allowed to make these kinds of claims because of FDA regulations here in the United States, that beverages are regulated slightly differently than the way supplements are, and because these are more like supplemental beverages, there's less regulations around testing and other things. So that's just something to keep in mind as we go through today. So we're going to talk about 4 different categories. Obviously, there are lots out there and we could spend a lot of time going over these, but I'm going to break it down into these main categories. So we have functional beverages that promise to deliver more energy and focus. We've got beverages that claim to help with mood, calm, stress relief, that kind of beverage. We've got beverages that'll aid in digestion. And then the last one we'll talk about is sleep. So let's dive first into our energy and focus style functional beverages. This is probably the one people are most familiar with. Energy drinks first appeared in grocery stores as early as the 1960s. If you didn't know that, that really surprised me. Obviously, now in popularity, they've risen over the last 20 or 30 years, and they're pretty ubiquitous. You can get them just about anywhere now. So what is included in these drinks that makes them more geared towards giving you energy, focus, clarity, alertness? So these drinks generally contain stimulants. So stimulants are just a class of substances that provide what we call an upping and alerting effect. It increases things like sympathetic drive, so your heart rate, your blood pressure, maybe even respiration, maybe even things like pupils dilating, just to give you an idea of what stimulants do, not that that's what these drinks do. Some of the examples include things like caffeine, yerba mate, ginseng, guarana, and lots of herbal supplements also contain substances that either are caffeine or caffeine-like. So, most of the popular ingredients or most of the popular drinks that people are familiar with are your coffee, your tea, your energy drinks. There are a lot of herbal drinks now on the market, again, utilizing more of those plant-based ingredients to help deliver those effects that give you a little bit more energy and a little bit more focus. But there are some things that you should probably be aware of if this is something that you are looking for that pick-me-up in the day. So number one is that caffeine or stimulant tolerance is going to vary person to person. So if you are somebody who probably regularly consumes your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, etc., you probably have a pretty decent tolerance to caffeine. So you understand how much is too much, or when you're just like, I could use a little bit more. But that tolerance is going to be different for each person, so it's hard to make just broad sweeping generalizations of like a recommended amount because of just differences in like body weight, size, gender, and then just tolerance overall. Also keeping in mind just what some of the ingredients are in them, especially if you look at something like an energy drink, which is a bit more processed and has a lot of ingredients, versus something like coffee that's a bit more, I guess, like natural, or, you know, like fewer ingredients that you can customize it and tailor it the way you want. So just if you see that there are ingredients being advertised, maybe just do a quick little search and determine if these ingredients are something that's worth investing in or something that's skipping out on. The other thing I would like to point out is that, again, tying it back to just people's tolerances, is that if you have any underlying health conditions or even undiagnosed health conditions or take any prescription medications, that a lot of substances can have a co-effect, and sometimes it's a bad thing, especially if you're taking any kind of like prescription medication regularly. So if you are looking to incorporate something more into your routine like that, and you are on a medication or have a diagnosed health condition, maybe just speak to your physician and make sure that some of those, especially herbal supplements, don't cause any negative effects. All right. Let's move on to our mood, calm, and stress beverages. All right, so these types of beverages are going to have ingredients that we call adaptogens. Adaptogens are natural substances that help our bodies adapt to stress and maintain balance, or what we call homeostasis. So our body likes to maintain a certain level of baseline, and while, yes, we can go above and below that baseline, we generally like to stay right at baseline here. They support the body's ability to cope with physical, environmental, and emotional factors. Some of those ingredients can include things like ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, holy basil, ginseng, schisandra, maca root, and licorice root. There are many more, and you'll probably notice as we go through these, especially a lot of those herbal ingredients have multiple functions, and so something to keep in mind as well. So if, for example, we mentioned that ginseng could be a stimulant, and that ginseng can also aid in like mood, calm, and stress. So keeping that in mind of like, what time of day is it? If we are looking to calm down and relax later in the day, maybe look for something that doesn't quite have those stimulant type of ingredients. Lots of available options on the market there. Usually you'll find them in like the refrigerated section, but honestly, you just go down the aisles and find them in the grocery store as well. We're actually going to take some time at the end of this episode to just give you guys a couple of ideas and recipes for if you wanted to like make something at home. Because while I have a very nice display of beverages here, each of these are very expensive and can run as little as $2 and as high as like $5 or $6 per bottle. And as fun as it would have been to have 20 beverages here for you guys, I'm really not in the market to spend $80 on a fun little drink here. So we're going to show you guys some alternatives there at the end of this episode. But we're going to get through our next two, which are going to be digestion and sleep. So functional beverages for digestion are typically going to include ingredients that are a bit more relaxing, particularly for your gut, as well as including nutrients that aid in digestion and gut healing. So things like fiber, collagen, amino acids, and probiotics. A lot of these examples are including things like herbal teas that are generally non-stimulant or caffeine-free herbal teas like peppermint, chamomile, among others. Fermented drinks like kefir, yogurt drinks, and kombucha, which we'll talk about and show a little bit later on. Aloe vera juice, lemon water, and bone broth. I feel like bone broth is having a moment here. Bone broth is excellent for being very nutrient dense in collagen and amino acids that are good for our gut lining. So not just stomach, but also the rest of the digestive tract, our large and small intestines as well. Bone broth in particular can run very pricey because of how it's made. It takes a large amount of just animal bones to extract those nutrients. So maybe that's a once in a time treat. You can also use bone broth for cooking, not just for drinking as well. And then our last category of beverages for sleep. So our sleep focused drinks obviously should be consumed at nighttime. Don't really want to consume those during the day, but generally are going to include ingredients like herbs, tryptophan, melatonin, and vitamins and minerals that all help support sleep and restorative states. Some examples of those include herbal teas, especially herbal teas that include ingredients like lavender, elderberry extract, and even hibiscus. So I know that hibiscus teas tend to be a very popular option. So if that is around, keep that in mind, that hibiscus does have low levels of melatonin in them. So I would steer clear of that if you're looking for that as your morning option for tea. As well as tart cherry juice, which is something I have here and one of the cocktails that we'll work with a little bit later on here. All right, so those are our classes of beverages. So I'm going to show you guys two that I really like to make throughout the day. So the first one is going to be utilizing kombucha. So kombucha is something I've recently gotten into as I was looking for an alternative to just alcohol, trying to distance myself from that in my lifestyle. And I have found that kombucha is something that I really enjoy. There are lots of options for kombucha. Essentially, the way kombucha is made, it's fermented. So they take these yeast and bacteria and they feed sugar to them. And then as the yeast feed on that, they produce that like fizzy kind of fermented, like gut healthy ingredients for you guys. Similar process to how like wine and other alcohol is made as well, is that we need the sugar to serve as that catalyst for food for that reaction. That being said though, a lot of kombuchas can have or generally have sugar added back into them to give them a bit more flavor and taste. So you can always just take a quick look at the back of the label for your nutrition facts, and you can see included where it'll say X number of grams of added sugar. I usually like to go with something that's about 10 grams or less. All right, so we're going to grab, kombucha is generally stored in the fridge. Lots of different options there. I've really been enjoying the GT Synergy brand. This is not a plug, not really associated with them, but been trying a new flavor every week. And so this week we're going to be trying this new line that they have of their Agua Frescas. So it says Agua de Kefir, Culture Tonic of Mexico. The flavor is Guava Paloma. So another call out is that kombucha is also very low in calories. So this whole bottle, this 16-ounce bottle, is only 30 calories. And so I like to give it a little bit more volume by adding in some sparkling water. And today we're going to add some coconut water to it as well. All right. So again, it is going to be carbonated. It is going to be a little bit fizzy. You can also see that sometimes the good stuff will kind of settle out. So you can give it just like a very, very gentle shake. Again, just be careful of that pressurized. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my super cute aesthetic mason jar, but honestly, any cup will do. I'm going to pour maybe about a cup or two. Well, I guess I'm going to pour a cup. So about half of this jar here into my cup. From here, I like to go in with a little bit of ice just to keep it cold at this stage. So I'm going to add some ice cubes to my cup. Fantastic. All right. If you like fizzy drinks, I find that this is a really nice alternative to like soda as well, as I also didn't want something with caffeine, and I didn't want something that was going to stain my teeth. So this is a really good option as well. All right. So we've got two options for our coconut water today. I've got plain coconut water. A big shout out, coconut water is actually a good source of potassium. So if you are looking to increase the potassium in your diet, or if you are outside on a hot summer day, whether you're outside on vacation or you're out by the pool or the beach, as you sweat, you do tend to lose electrolytes, vitamins, and minerals, and potassium is one of those. We need potassium in a pretty large quantity because it works in synergy with sodium for a lot of cellular functions. So I've got plain coconut water, and I've also got a peach and mango coconut water. So this one sounds very interesting. It's got a little bit, actually it doesn't have any added sugar. So 100% pulp-free juice, not from concentrate. I think for today, I'm going to go with just regular coconut milk because I'd really like to enjoy the flavor of our Guava Paloma. All right, so I'm going to give my coconut water just a bit of a shake. We're going to add in maybe about a half cup or so, maybe 1 cup. This is a pretty big jar. I'm also not using any measuring cup. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to top it off with is some sparkling water. Then just to give it like a little bit more fizz. I'm going to leave some extra room here because I might give a splash of lime juice here. All right, so now that I've got everything into my jar, I'm going to grab a straw, give it a quick stir. And like I said, the beauty of this is that my coconut water as well as my kombucha are both relatively low calorie options. So this entire 32-ounce jar may be coming in at no more than 60 calories. So I would say that's a huge success. All right, here we go. First taste test. That's pretty good. I have lime juice, bottled lime juice. I don't have fresh limes. I think fresh limes would be fantastic. We're going to add a splash of lime just for a bit more brightness. And again, because this is working with kombucha, this is a good drink to aid in potentially digestion as those probiotics through the fermentation process here. All right, 1 splash. We're going to give it a stir. Okay. Okay, fabulous. I will give you guys the recipe for this, but this is going to be our kombucha coconut water cocktail. 10 out of 10. I usually give these as my weekend treat. Kombucha can run a little pricey as each jar is generally about $4 or $5. So that is something to keep in mind. They do sell large batches, and then depending on where you grocery shop, especially if you go to a wholesaler like Costco, you might be able to buy these in bulk, which can bring the price down. All right, so I'm going to be drinking that throughout the rest of the day. I've got 2 more drinks that I want to highlight for you guys. The second one is going to be for sleep. So for our sleep cocktail, which I probably won't make today, just kind of demo the ingredients for you guys. We're going to be going in with tart cherry juice. So tart cherry juice is a very natural form of melatonin. Melatonin is a substance that our bodies actually produce melatonin. It is what works in opposition to cortisol. So cortisol is a hormone that our bodies produce as a response to stress. That is both a good and bad thing, as our cortisol levels will generally rise in the morning and start to decline as we get through midday and through the afternoon. And then as we go into the evening, as cortisol declines, melatonin production is going to start to ramp up. So if you are looking for something to help you kind of wind down at the end of the day and get settled for sleep, this is an option for a nice little nightcap for you guys. Going in with a little bit of tart cherry juice. So you can drink this absolutely plain. Just pour yourself like a half cup, a cup. I wouldn't really go anything more than that, as it is straight juice. It is 100% juice. There's no added sugar, but it's still a little bit higher, about 22 grams of sugar for 1 serving. So depending on whether you're eating that like right after a meal or if you're just having it right before bed. Although I will say that having a little bit of carbs at night can also help with your body settle down and go into sleep. Because as you've experienced, when you eat lunch or a large meal, is you generally have a spike in insulin, which you perceive as feeling a little bit tired, as like blood sugar is a little bit higher. So again, timing that well at night can also help you start to wind down and go into deeper states of sleep. If you were looking to cut the juice, you could go in with a sparkling water, or very popular and trendy from TikTok is going in and making it a bit more of a mocktail style with some juice and a prebiotic soda like Poppy or Olipop. So the prebiotic sodas are interesting. They have added fiber to them. Not a large amount. It's only about 2 grams of fiber, and it's in a liquid form versus like the solid that you would experience from food. But then again, it's no different than if you take a fiber supplement like Metamucil, or if you add something like psyllium husk to your beverages. It's just a way to add more fiber into your diet, so not a bad option there. But adding a little bit of fizz to your juice is a good option. The TikTok recipe even goes further and adds magnesium powder. So of the supplements that you could potentially take for sleep, magnesium has been shown to help people with sleep. It also helps with other things like bone health, as well as alleviating muscle cramps. So if you are somebody who wakes up at night with muscle cramps, or you're somebody who's just very active later in the day, a magnesium supplement would be an easy, it's very affordable, doesn't require like a high dosage. So you could add that in and make yourself a nice little pretty cocktail. All right. And then my final one. So this is a good way to start the front end of your day. So as we go to bed at night, we go through our rest and digest stages. So a lot of repair is happening in our body. And even though that we are not terribly active, we are still continuously breathing, which is one way that we lose water in our bodies. But also, all of the cellular processes happening generally require water to make those cycles function. So you do continue to lose water as you go through sleep, which is why you wake up and you're a little dehydrated. So a great way to start off the day with some hydration here. We're going to make just a really quick water beverage. So you can go in with cold water, hot water, lukewarm water, whatever feels good to you. I'm going to go in with just about the cold tap water that comes out of my faucet. I'm going to fill this up halfway. And then we're going to add a couple of things to it. I'm going to top it off with a bit more water. So the first thing I want to add is salt. So I'm going to take my salt grinder and just maybe like 2 or 3 cranks to add in a little bit of salt. Salt is going to help us retain that water. So since we're getting up and we're dehydrated, when we drink that water, some of it's going to be absorbed, some of it's going to run right through us. That's generally how it goes. So adding in those electrolytes helps water to bind to it and not lose that water as quickly. So we're going to add it in some salt. The other thing we're going to add, which is going to sound a little strange, is we're going to add in some chia seeds. So chia seeds are a good source of omega-3s. They're a good source of fiber and other essential fatty acids. Now, I will say the very first time I had a chia seed beverage, you can find them, yes, already pre-mixed. They look a little funny because the chia seeds absorb a whole lot of water, so they tend to puff up. And they get kind of a gummy consistency rather than a seed consistency. So if texture is a big deal for you, this might not be the way to do it. But you can also omit the seeds. Just another option again, because the water is going to bind to the fiber in those seeds. I'm going to take just a pinch. Is probably a good place to start. If you get acclimated enough, you can start to work your way up to like a half teaspoon, a teaspoon, maybe even a tablespoon. Again, you just want to be mindful with chia seeds is that they will absorb water. They will increase in volume and size. So you do want to start out small. Otherwise, you might cause some intestinal discomfort because of the large volume of seeds. So I've got my salt, I've got my chia seeds. The last thing we're going to top it off with is some lemon juice. Again, we're just hyperdosing our electrolytes here. Little splash there. I'm going to top it off with more water, or in fact, if I wanted to, I could go back in with my coconut water to add in a little bit more potassium. All right, so quick little beverage that you can have first thing in the morning on an empty stomach is preferable before you get your breakfast. Giving it a couple of stirs. Again, you can do this with ice water. You can do it with hot water. It just depends on a preference thing for you. Not bad, but great way to start off the day. That's going to wrap it up for our functional beverages for today. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. I'm going to leave the recipes for both the Sleepy Time Mocktail and our Kombucha coconut water beverage in the caption and in the show notes for you guys. We'll see you guys next month for Friday Morning Fuel. Once again, I'm your host, Coach Mary. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of the Olympic events. Thank you. Gonna stop.